customer experience in a digital-first world, powered by Omnichannel partner Zendesk. Welcome to our moderator, KT Prasad, MD and RVP Sales, India and SAARC Zendesk, Mohit Gopal, SVP, Strategic Initiatives, Vats and Omnichannel PayU, Vishwanath Shetty, Vice President, Sales and Brand Solutions, Pocket Aces, Thejasvi Bhat, Head of Engineering, BlackBuck, Shankar Mishra, VP, Customer Experience, Future Generali India Insurance, Srivaths, Varadharajan, Chief Operating Officer, Spice Money. Dear audience, please post your questions in the chat box. Panel will address a few at the end of this session. Over to you, Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Srishti. Very warm welcome to all those who are attending from comfort of their homes or people who got opportunity to reoccupy their offices in some capacity. Welcome. A very good evening and good afternoon, and depends on which of the time zones that you joining today. And I think there's a drastic difference between the 14 Idea Summit versus today. Though it's all digital, but the transformation that occurred between the 14th and the 15th edition is tremendous, I'm sure. And I'm sure all of us went through it. This is not a new for most of you that, we went through or going through a pandemic. It's still not over, but the hope is getting brighter. We got a COVID vaccine out and the frontline workers and everybody getting treated as we speak, which is a great sign. There are certain economies are starting to function. In fact, the tax collections are going back to GST collections is going back to the pre-pandemic times. A lot of needles are going back. However, there are disruptions have happened, transformations happened, and continues to happen. And what has happened in the last 10 months, which is basically made, are we resilient as a company? Are we resilient as a people? Are we resilient as a consumer? I think all of those being tested to the peaks. And I have no better than the best 5 industry experts today sitting with me and sharing their views. And the topic is, how is the customer experience? And today, I think, if you're looking in the digital world, or probably digital world or digital experience or way of functioning and reaching out to customer, digital is always either number 1 or number 2, just before pandemic. But after pandemic, I think digital is taken the number 1 space. You might not be operating a physical store for some reasons. I think the most lockdown, that's what has happened. A lot of stores were not there, but still people still got their daily groceries and the daily needs served through digital mechanisms and stuff like that. That means we get all resilient. The customers are resilient and all of businesses have been resilient. And I'm so glad today to talk about a key topic for conversation today is, how is the customer experience in digital first world? And although it's slightly off topic, but I have the industry expert that I will have a leverage to ask them and probe them a little more questions about what do they think about it. And let me draw in Hari from Future Generali. Hari, very important industry that you're operating. For people, I'm sure everybody knows Future Generali, but Generali in particular is about 180, 190 years old company. Looking at the industry, and I want you to, if you could help us to answer in twofold. We evolved into a digital first, and how did this impact the insurance industry in particular? And has it changed consumer behavior? And has it fueled and given you new opportunities for revenue growth?
Hi, Katie. Thanks for that. So happy to open the turf. We did well in another opening with Australia today. So so Future Generali, no doubt now has been there for 14 years in the Indian market, and Generali been there for 190 years plus in the European and the worldwide market. Insurance, as you rightly said, had been in a good degree of time been considered as something like which is a contract which you take and hope that you do not get to use, because no one wants that accident or that unpleasant incident, but you want to insure against that. So as the industry evolved, we also quite a few years back could feel the pulse that this is going to happen. And when there are going to be these digital companies, so the same user is like, for example, going to buy from an Amazon, is going to pay through a Paytm. When it comes to insurance, he will find it to be a contrasting difference if we do not pick up on that side. So The one thing, but what we understood needs to be differentiated is that you'll continue to work as business to customer. It's not like the layer in between will totally disappear compared to many other industries which are there, because it requires a lot of explanation to the customer. So particularly in terms of the consumer behavior and how we have leveraged on that in the insurance industry, I would say that if we see the entire life cycle, there have been opportunities, and that is where we have leveraged. So right from the pre-prospecting to the acquisition to the policy goes out to the customer, and then the servicing and the actual moment of truth, claims or renewal, when it comes up to that, that how happy he was throughout the year, because the general insurance contract is due for renewal every year, and you have got like 30 plus players in the market to choose from. So your digital experience would be very important, the digital customer experience. So some of the things what we are doing is we have like put these as hallmarks, and we are putting a lot of focus on one hallmark called the paperless sourcing. And especially it was good that we were not caught unaware during the pandemic, because we had started working on this. So what came to our benefit was that we had developed e-proposals, portals, and apps. So while they were there with a modicum of usage, what happened is that during this time when there was no stepping out, the adoption really started spiraling high. And the delivery of the policies started going over WhatsApp. So one challenge which we had been also grappling with is to own the customer contact data, because general insurance is especially a space where the intermediary is very loath to give the customer's contact data, because they fiercely, safeguard it or keep owning it. So this was a time where we could really make inroads into that and get the conviction that to serve them and to get the policy out, we need the phone and the email ID. So these came to our benefit in the terms of the proposition. And then also, if you're doing a car insurance policy, often you will need to inspect the vehicle if it is in good condition, if there has been a break or so. So again, digital came and it was that the customer can post his own car inspection video or photographs using our digital app, and the underwriting can be done basis that any place. And then coming to the claim experience also, the somewhat simpler claims could be also adjudged basis a video call between the surveyor and the customer, and no need for a physical visit over there, and him also taking the right pictures even while the video conversation is going out. So which we termed as an instant video streaming settlement and surveillance of the vehicle. So this worked very well. All these things which we have been building over and we are continuing to build and experiment worked out very well in this period. And especially for, again, when we say about the prospecting, our agents we have been trying to digitize, because like I said earlier, the agent is not going to go away, the intermediary is not going to go away. So we are empowering them with the apps through which they can do the business, and also like how they can be in communication with the customer, not only at the time of sourcing and then again when a claim comes or at the end of the policy period, but in between what kind of valuable information they can send through Facebook page, through their other profiles, the social media channels, by giving them a back end where we can give them ready content that they can pass on as a social engagement. So I understand that 3 to 4 minutes would be the right time to speak, not exceed my brief, so that we can hear from others also. These are some of the things which we have been trying, and I'm sure any insurer worth their salt would be trying, or even more. This is how customer experience in the digital first world is transitioning, and these are going to be exciting times ahead.
Absolutely, Hari. When you're talking, I think there's so much of relevance and we could reflect upon. I don't think anybody listening in would have not looked at the watch, but thank you for that insight. And I kind of agree. I think one of the points that you said, delivery of policies and WhatsApp as a channel, it just not in a fintech and financial service industry, and as a software service provider, we've seen a surge of WhatsApp, not just in India but across the globe. Because this is the channel that customers use to communicate their friends and family. They know that it's reliability and whatnot, and they've turned to the same channel talking to the businesses when it's absolutely needed. So I'm so glad that you embrace the technology and providing the great experience in the digital first world. Thank you. Let me just turn it around and say, bring in Srivaths into the conversation. While you heard from Future Generali, which Generali 190, Future Group, in existence for almost 14 years, fintech companies, and we all know that fintech has been a deep understanding of customer experience, and they use tech. A great amount of tech has been used, which means you can get a seamless omnichannel experience for customers, generally perceived in the market, and I'm sure you would agree. Considering this, you feel fintech companies might be prepared for changing customer demands far better than any other industries?
Absolutely right, Kitty. So fintech had always got this benefit for last in India 4 years of starting things in clean slate, right? They didn't carry the legacy, unusual like your financial services and banks, which always had the legacy and then to catch up with the technology. So they had that privilege always and the first mile advantage to build their technologies, which can be latest, modern, and which can connect to the end consumers. The differentiation is not only in terms of technology for fintech, but also in terms of thought process. So the customers, the partners, and the employees in the ecosystem were always kept in the forefront when any design thinking process was built in fintech organizations. But having said that, in last 3.5 years of journey, the fintech organizations have realized that India as an entire country is yet to get to the curve where there can be 100% digitization. So phygital model is something which the fintech and large institutions are working on. It will trail through for a few more years. And then eventually when the consumers grow and when the adoption of consumers in terms of digital ecosystem comes in, thankfully to COVID, or I would say COVID made people realize that digitization is no other alternative. There's no other option because consumers were very fast to adopt apps, ecosystems which are completely through digital delivery. And some of the large organizations which were not into the fintech space took some time to get their basics right. The first 6 months went on getting their DRs in place, getting their InfoSec policies in place. Most of them were sitting with desktops and not even with laptops to their end employees. And when you don't enable and empower your employees, there's no way you're going to really serve your end customers and the partner ecosystem as well. So that's a wake-up call for everyone that digitization and digital ecosystem is coexistence. There is no choice. And especially for fintech and also the large financial institutions have realized that they have to coexist. So while the fintech has got the capability of taking faster decision, agility, move fast, do sprints, go live quickly, bank has got the capacity and capability of having the entire product suite of assets and liabilities tried and tested in the market for last 15, 20 years. So the combination of both is something which will coexist for another 4-5 years. They have learned to coexist even now, and that's how they're going to build it. So the new space that is going to disrupt here slightly is going to be the neobank capability. So fintechs will start moving towards neobank. And that is where there'll be a slight amount of differentiation, though the banks and neobanks will continue to coexist because many banks have realized that they can't become a fintech, but they have put significant amount of stakes in fintech and made them part of their ecosystem. So that's how this entire fintech journey is going to go and also get matured towards the neobank capability. But the coexistence is inevitable.
So brilliant. I think I see a repeat of theme between you and Hari. I think one thing is empowerment. We talked about empowering employees, empowering partners, empowering customers. Looking that we're putting the power of those decisions and views into the hands of the people who actually do it, and through that you can drive a great experience. Looks like both you and Hari guys, you guys are driving that. Let me bring in Thejasvi into this conversation. A very unique business. And a very diverse in my view. For those of you who do not know, Thejasvi comes from BlackBuck, and very unique business that you are in, and has a diverse set of stakeholders. You have, if you look at a digital literacy scale, no offense, and in the right spirit, that I would say you have somebody. You are a tech company end of the day, but you deal with shippers, truckers, and drivers. And if you could just elaborate, how do you drive customer experience strategy across all these, I would say, very varied personalities on the digital literacy?
You use the right word, Katie. It's diverse. I think we are the company where our customers are very varied. So we have customer bases from different sections of the society. For example, we have 3 primary customers, right? We have shippers on one side, we have supply partners, what we call as fleet owners on the other side, and we have drivers on the other third. If I create a 3-way marketplace, these are 3 customers on the ecosystem. And what works for one doesn't work for another. So when you look at customer experience, you should look at each in its own individuality. Please understand the fact that logistics in India have been primarily an offline business, and they are forced to come on online over the course of last probably 2-3 years, where the digital adoption has happened a bit. Thanks to innovative move of making toll as a mandated feature from Indian government. We have a lot of fleet owners started coming on to use our fast tags now. Be it the customers, we adopted toll tax probably recently when the government mandated, and same way with our fleet owners. And for them, it is important at that point of time that they get understanding of this digital ecosystem. So digital literacy, as you rightly pointed out, was very important. So BlackBuck trying to play that role of being the digital teacher in that aspect, if I can call that way, and helping them in this journey, taking the whole of their processes online. So if you look at shippers, they have a lot of work which involves around documentations. And our whole product should cater to probably not so much on a typical consumer level conversions. It's probably an helping kind of a way. Whereas if you look at the fleet owners, we should help them to be able to seamlessly transact on our platform, be it tolling, be it how they track their trucks where they are, and just make sure that all the safety are taken care and so on and so forth during the course of pandemic. And drivers is a very interesting customer set in our ecosystem, right? For example, most of the drivers at this point of time have got they have migrated from a feature phone or to a smartphone probably very recently. So to make sure we build customer experience in such a way that they can adopt it quickly was paramount. So the new set of customer UX we are trying to experiment, probably a voice assisted UI. Localization, what works for probably world probably may not directly work for India, because India is, as you said, very diverse, right? So you will have to build a lot of localized interfaces, voice assisted, which is also localized, and so on and so forth. So effectively, we are in this crust of digital adoption, and BlackBuck is playing a role where we get all of them into this platform where they can actually, at the end of the day, for everybody, it's about avoiding those leakages, making their businesses success. And we are trying to play that role of helping them on this journey.
Oh, brilliant. So good to hear. But one thing really stands out, I think one to other, in my own reading of summary, you said, what works elsewhere might not work here. What works in other industry might not work here. But you also talked about how could you really, especially personalized experiences based on their digital literacy scale, or from consumers' perspective. You have 3 different persona that you're serving, and looks like you figure out, you've categorized very clearly what is the experience that is required for them to deliver. Voice assisted to the drivers, because their usage of smartphones and other things might not be as much as you want, versus a shipper who's probably sitting in a desk job. Great to hear that, actually, Thejasvi. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that insight. Let me just pull on Vishwanath. And he, I would say, coincidentally works for one of my personal favorite organization. That's somebody that I personally consume and spend a lot of time. And I would say, if you have to thanks pandemic, thanks to Filter Copy, and all the great work that Vishwa and the team have been doing there. But Vishwa, in media entertainment and OTT, we see a lot of growth of viewership, consumption of content, and I'm sure it all would have skyrocketed in the last 9 months. And from that perspective, if you look at it, as a popular content creators like yourself, what it changed from a customer experience point of view for Filter Copy and yourself? Has pandemic any impact at all? If so, what kind of impact? We're curious to know.
Yeah, of course. So see, everyone was sitting at home, right? Pandemic. We were working, we were cooking, and we were getting bored. And eventually we wanted something to ease our stress off. We were working extra hours. So there was a lot of pressure on us because shoots were not happening. We had to put out content right there so that the customer experience and what they come for, essentially entertainment, and not to get bored, right? So we had to do our job. So we quickly figured out how to shoot from laptops, how to create shows. We understood a lot of people now have started watching longer format web series. Initially, when you used to travel, we used to quickly binge on 5-minute video, and we used to move on, get into some other work, right? Or people used to travel. While traveling, they used to watch a couple of our shows. But now sitting at home, they have finished like watching 5-minute content and want to watch much larger series. So the series consumption went up, right? A lot of web series consumption went up on our Dice channel. And we figured, and since shoot was not happening, we had to provide audience, entertainment and content. And we released one of the lockdown series where customer appreciated, saying thank you so much for entertaining us, while we understand there are shows not happening. So that's one side of the story, right? Customers, audience is watching our show. Since I lead monetization for the company, there's another customer for me, for us essentially, and these are brands. Now brands, with them also it was the same issue, right? Ads were not getting shot. There were campaigns which were coming out. How do I reach out to the audience, right, who are watching a lot of social media platforms, our channel, watching influencers, right? A lot of people enthusiastic, like even most of us would have put one picture of something that we would have cooked, right? Maybe or made a dalgona coffee and would have posted somewhere. So, and thankfully we have all these channels with us, right? We have Filter Copy, we have food channel, which is Gopal, we have web series platform, premium web series platform, which is Dice. So our views also started increasing. We saw 30% more viewership than what we used to see earlier, because now people had time to watch this content. So that happened. On the other side, brands were really excited because we were the few ones who started creating content, and we were relevant then. And traditional medium where there were no shows on television, right? People were playing old content on repeat, and no one wants to watch old content on repeat, so they wanted to watch something new. So a lot of traditional brands also came to us, right? So they explored digital for the first time, and that increased. We saw 40% of new clients coming in and working on digital, right? So that happened. Yeah, so those were the larger impacts, I would say. Of course, OTT, whoever had commissioned show, whoever had shows to put out on their platform, were putting out, but eventually they were also struggling for content. And since there was no shoot happening, it was difficult for them as well. So this was, like, in nutshell, whatever happened during COVID. Yeah.
Brilliant, Vishwa. Thank you for that insight. And we're still excited about the new content as it gets created and comes out. And I have follow-up question, but I'll hold it for the next round of question. But I'll want to bring in Mohit into the conversation. Mohit, you are in a part of an organization which has got high impact. Look at the number of people that you could actually impact to, which is phenomenal. And I've read somewhere about 40 million consumers that you had affected in one way or other from your services and products. And with that, probably, with UPI, which is a couple of years ago, which is a very prominent, very huge differentiator, for multiple mobile wallets today. And it's a very distinctive varieties of payment options that everybody has. Now, it seems like payment platform isn't core differentiator anymore. Looks like, I have this payment, it's not a differentiator. On the other hand, it seems like ancillary features and CX that determine fintech product success. And do you think this is an accurate assessment that, what would be if I'm a fintech company, and what could be the CX strategy for a fintech? And what do you see from your view? We're very keen to share. Could you share some of the thoughts, please? You're on mute, Mohit.
Sure, Katie. Great question. And I'll start by saying that when you think of it, right, we're in an increasingly digital world. And if you just look at what fintech stands for, that fin stands for finance or money and the movement of that largely. And it could be lending, it could be payments, but there is a money component somewhere. And the tech piece is all about how do we scale, how do we provide consistent experience, consistent repeatable experience to customers, and how do you actually get them to adopt a product? So if you look at the problems, the money problem is a question of trust, and the tech problem is a question of adoption, right? And at the end, the heart of both of this is actually customer experience. You will trust somebody if you know them well, and if you've got some past background, you feel comfortable around them. And on the adoption side, you will adopt something if it actually is something which will fit into your day-to-day life, if that is something which feels convenient to you and works with what you're trying to achieve, right, as an individual or as a company. If I just looked at payments and think of it, you've got in fintech, it's so vast, but you've got both B2B and B2C. In a B2C environment, customer experience is so central. It's so obvious that we all know if you're working with customers, you need to really have great CX, and it needs to be central to your strategy, not even ancillary. But even when you think about B2B payments, and I'll talk about from, say, a PayU's perspective, we largely work with merchants, right? However, payments itself is a B2C activity, but because our merchants are working with end customers. So things like ensuring the lowest latencies of transactions, ensuring that the flow is as smooth as possible becomes central to what we do. So even for B2C company, B2B companies in fintech, it is central. You also spoke about a bit about UPI. When I think of UPI, see, UPI at heart is just bank transfers using IMPS rails. So what makes UPI so successful as compared to standard bank transfers? It is customer experience. The fact that you don't need to remember an account number, the fact that it's on mobile, and we all have a mobile device within 6 feet of us. So it's always accessible, right? So those are the kind of things which make UPI so successful. It's superior customer experience. And I'll just end this by quoting from my favorite poet, American Maya Angelou. And she said that I've learned that people will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that, I think, is the heart of customer experience and why it's so central to everything, especially fintech.
Wow, I love the summary, and I'm probably going to record, take some note, and I'm going to reuse it. Of course, hopefully you have given me your approval to reuse it, right? Because it's such a powerful one, Mohit. I really loved it, and also the way you summarized how CXC is looked at it. And again, different experts have different views, and I really love the way you narrated it. And a summary, if you could make your product and services available to your customers 24/7 at their convenience, you are providing great experience. It's not about what you think is right to do. Think about what is right for the customer. And the way you narrated, right? If mobile is about 6 feet away, and who want to remember a 12-digit or a 16-digit number, which is so difficult, and you're testing memory versus look at convenience. Yeah, absolutely right. But few things on a customer experience, generally irrespective of industry. If you look at cross industry, the CX means you just need to be available to your customer all the time whenever they want, maybe at a convenience of their home, or at a convenience of their time. You can't be saying that you can reach out to me only from 9 to 5, things of the nature. You reiterated that fact, and it's applicable to other industries too. Second, you got to give the power of doing right things in the hands of customer, which is basically what we call as self-service. Customer helping themselves, through their mobile app and stuff like that. Then they don't need to come to your branch to do transactions and things of the nature. Drives a great CX. Absolutely, it does. And not just to fintech, but also to other industries that we work and operate. So thank you for a very insightful view there, Mohit. I want to bring in again Hari here. Hari, just going into the next one, basically, as a CX leader, what do you think the next big thing in CX? And if I were to ask you same time last year, your answer would have been different, I'm sure. With what we went through in the last 10 months, your answer would have been changed. I'm keen to learn. What do you think? The big thing for CX for overall. You're on mute, Ari.
So sorry. Yeah, I think we need some app which auto recognizes.
And as of now, that app is KT Prasad.
Thank you so much. Yeah. In fact, as I'll speak later, that will also become obvious, and you need the human at all times. So I wish I had that crystal ball, would make things really great, and my CEO would then find me as always the go-to man. Not that we are not there, but I think to look at the future, we have the history to learn from. If you talk of customer experience, or how people like Shankar, after getting the right insight to know that which are the areas to work upon and what could influence customers. Earlier, we used to have like insights as something like you package it, you present it, to the topmost guys, and then you get into project mode, and then you get into approval. One thing which is happening everywhere is that insight is now very, very much real time and very much actionable. So you should be able to get the pulse of what each customer is doing, and at that time itself, like preempt and prevent any experience which went sour for the customer. So the concepts, the pillars are going to be the same about like how much you are going to gauge the customer. The design that you offer of things is going to be same. I mean, you need to be continuing to be human centric. The mix of human and digital is going to remain there. So it's not like, I mean, things would like start going by some other via media or so. I mean, even while the cloud will appear, I mean, the things would remain. The person would expect that. But some of the things which I can say, for example, for insurance is like it's been a very long time that things have been made complex, and we have sort of hidden behind the facade of that complexity of the way the products are worded or offered to the customer to make it perhaps much more secure and sound. The customers are going to prefer the people who are going to be simpler and smarter to deal with. So something which can say that yes, my policy means that most of the times you'd be covered for these things, and something like which says not only, I mean, putting it in the facts or figures, because imagine that when we go to the doctor and even he says that the operation has good chances of 95% success, and then you're made to put a signature for a loved one, a near or dear one, to say that I take the rest of the 5% of risk which happens. So that I think is the thing what customers are going to expect and to build up. And of course, the ecosystem of services and insurance would like very well gel through. It is not going to remain different. The service will very well merge with insurance, because things like the Internet of Things, telematics, and the way the new kind of things would appear, like if new cars would appear, then a new kind of insurance service would appear. If there's electrical, there's automatically driven cars, then the insurance service would not be the same thing which would go by the driver behavior. It will go by how strong was the logic design behind the car's auto running. So these are some of the things I can look at, and still I expect to go wrong, because no one can predict the future, and we can only try and keep pace with it.
I think everything is brilliant. But again, I love taking notes from every panelist that I talk to, and I think you said one thing: keep it simple for customer. And sometimes we think about defining customer experience in a very long drawn journeys, processes, and stuff like that. But we often forget: is it simple? Is it easy for customer to reach out and easy to get what they want to get to? And I think simplicity, keeping it simple, means driving great experience. Great thing, foundation, but I'm sure continues to be there. Probably play a bigger job, because with so much of digital, drive that has happened in the market space across industries. And I'm sure each of the consumer would have had more apps downloaded in the last 10 months than what they've downloaded in the last 10 years. Basically with the content to use or apps to use, and exposure to internet and the information. Thank you, Hari. Let me bring in Srivaths, and Srivaths, I would like to get this slightly validated from you. Hari touched upon some of the technology evolution and stuff like that, so had Mohit and everybody touched. But what we are seeing, the messaging as a platform for customers. Like I talked about, WhatsApp was the go-to channel for most customers in the pandemic. Not the telephone was the first one. It is actually WhatsApp. So we've seen a huge growth there. Now, if you hear in the last couple of months, and especially in the month and a half too, there are a lot of things about Telegram and Signal and Instagram, and of course, a ton of other social messaging channels. And we see messaging has seen a lot of growth and adoption by businesses and customers, because that's what customers want during pandemic, especially as a support channel, as a way your customer reaching out to you for seeking help through that mode. What do you make of this trend as a CX leader? Do you see this is happening in India? What's applicability?
So the moment you talk about omnichannel experience to your end consumers as also your distribution partners, the first thing that happens in India is anything that new comes in is we abuse it to the best extent that we can. We over communicate with customers, we over communicate with distributor, we don't stick it to the complete permanent journey plan of the consumers as well as the distributor. And that's where the complete the setback comes to the omni-channel communication. What's more important is, as an organization, you need to measure the preferred channel of communication. This is the consumer experience that you're seeing for the end consumers as well as the distributor. So you don't have to really trigger an in-app notification or an SMS or an WhatsApp or an Telegram at just for one instance of communication to be done. You don't have to use actually really all the channels. You need to closely see which is the channel in which he responds, and then you need to fine tune your architecture in such a way that you use that channel effectively and personalize it accordingly, and don't make it too abusive for him. Now, when it comes for the other alternatives like Telegram and Signal, what is the difference between them and WhatsApp? WhatsApp made the consumer experience or the customer experience so seamless that it hardly had to put anything into adoption. Telegram is equally better and equally good. It has got a lot of APIs which are readily available, but the adoption was a big failure for them. Why? Because there was no much promotion. So sometimes it also depends upon how you promote, how you get connected, how do you position yourself is also becomes very important for the consumer adoption. And that is where I see that WhatsApp will continue to exist while the privacy policies and other things have come in. These are just a temporary storm that comes in. They'll find out a way. There'll be reconciliation, and I'm sure most of the guys who are attending this, the entire panel discussions, and also outside this, are still using WhatsApp. They've not moved out completely. Or the only alternative is they have started using both Telegram and WhatsApp because they know for sure that the dust is going to settle.
100%, Srivaths, absolutely. I don't think it just said, and I read this on Telegram, I think a few days ago. I think in 72 hours, there is a 25 million downloads of Telegram happened because since this happened. But when we're looking at from business point of view and a strategy point of view, and especially our senior leadership, when they thought, okay, what's the core thing that the customer would want? And probably this could be applicable to the audience here. As a software company, we provide software for you guys to manage the business, customer conversations. And we felt that, messaging going to be playing a very important role. And not now, we've taken that call about 4 or 5 years ago. And we started developing towards that. And today, either it's a Telegram or it's a Signal or it's Instagram or it's YouTube, or Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. But customers do have choices. Every country, like India, WhatsApp is very popular. You go to Southeast Asia, Line. You go to US, it's Facebook Messenger. But everything is around. What we see is the customers are around the social messaging platforms. So we see that, very similar. We echo the similar concept what you just said. We see that the messaging is huge growth that we have seen in the last 9 months, and it continues to grow in the next 1, 2, 3 years. Actually, that's one of the bets that, if you want to call it as that, we take that customers are going to go into more of messaging. Wonderful, Srivaths. Thank you. Let me bring in Mohit again. And Mohit, this time I wanted to understand from your perspective, what do you see and how do you see the future of CX evolving for fintech industry?
Sure. So I think in every aspect of fintech, right, if you think of it, like if you take the offline space, you had traditional POS devices, then you had Android POS partially replacing, and then you also have QR-based solutions. So where do I see that logically flowing? I see that flowing into tap on phone and then eventually to wearables. So all of us will have a chip embedded in our skins or under our skins, and you can walk in anywhere and you can tap and you can continue on, right? So, and by the way, these technologies are being piloted as we speak in Europe. So we're not talking about something which is science fiction. When it comes to online payments, you have the infrastructure pipes, which will be platform companies, which will provide that. And then you also have a regulatory sort of, you have regulatory, I won't just call it guidelines anymore, but you have regulation which defines what you can and cannot do. And then you will have many, many companies which will come in, which will just focus on the CX part of it. Think of it this way. If you walk into a typical Indian restaurant, you will have pretty much all kinds of food, from Chinese, Manchurian, and you'll also have idli sambar on the same menu, right? But the world's best restaurants tend to focus, they have a very small menu and they really, really specialize. So going forward, it's very clear that those companies will have success, specialize in something and really, really excel at it. Because everything else will become vanilla, easily available. APIs are available. There are companies which are there. It'll be easy enough for you to, if you want to market, you can come to a company which is a platform company. And in the event that you're a platform company, you will find many companies which provide specific solve for specific use cases. So that's how I really see it evolving. And I think that for all the change which we have seen over the last decade, the next decade in fintech will it'll be exponential change, and CX will be at the heart of it.
Wow, awesome. Thanks, Mohit. Very well said, I would say. Don't be a jack of all. Look at if you want to become a master of one. I think that really the clear message it seems to be. But whatever you're doing, you do it well. I think that's a clear message. Do it well so that becomes specialization, and try to collaborate with the ecosystem rather than trying to get everything and probably not getting anything out of it. Right. So brilliant. Thanks, Mohit. Tejasvi, I want to ask you this question because I have engineer on the forum, and this is a bit of engineer mindset, also your CX mindset, which we want to poke it in. And we hear a lot of thing about AI in the market, and it's something that we've been hearing from years now, especially in the customer experience space. But yet companies look at exceptional CX is always gets extra care delivered through a human touch. How do you get a balance of these?
Actually, we have taken this AI topic to actually subject everywhere we talk about where the AI will go towards. But AI come a long way from my previous ventures of, let's say, in food delivery industry. AI helped a lot to actually get faster access to what I want. Right at the end of the day, that's like I need to save my time. How do you seamlessly do it? I need to discover new places where I want to go to, or new food what I want to eat to, or for me faster access to demand and supply. Typically, right? And AI has helped in this journey a lot. And every company in this industry have invested very heavily on building right set of models, data sciences, data platforms. Data is available. Everything it's a new oil in that aspect, right? So access to data which is available. I remember you talked about serving every customer and serving it simple, right? So have we actually over optimized from the fact of end metric optimization? Where are we catering to every customer in that aspect? We have still not reached there in my mind personally. How I feel about it, right? Where there you need the human interventions to make sure that we serve to every customer, and we make sure the customer experience is not guided by your eventually hard metrics at the end of the day to run of the business, right? So that is where the human touch is still needed. And I think in times to come we would parameterize this in my mind. We will have right set of models to be able to optimize human factors embedded into the systems, and it'll serve a long way. But at this point of a time, to serve every customer in a simplistic way, AI is still not solving it, but we are in right direction. That's personally how I believe is going towards.
No, I think the balance is still not arrived, and probably the balance is in the hands of every business to see what does AI come and solve the problem for them, and what areas and what use case it will solve. And I usually take this example of credit card companies, especially fintech companies. Let's say you're a bank offering a credit card, and probably to offer a scale, you have an AI bot helping customer to find nearest branch hours. Great use case. But put that same AI use case for credit card lost as a use case. I, as a customer, lost my credit card, and you put me to automated messaging address. I'm already paranoid, dude. So get me off and let me talk to human who can give me comfort that my credit card is going to be blocked and transaction will not be allowed. It just that those things makes the psycho balance is so important, and it looks like the secret sauce. It seems to be on the industry that you operate, as well as the use case that you're trying to solve for a customer. And again, that's probably what I would say. But let Vishwanath, I got two questions for you. I said I have a repeat question for you, and it's curiosity question. I'm sure during the pandemic, when everything was came to a standstill, and I'm sure you could have not created content as much as you want to create. There's a lot of I would say viewership, and people are absorbing the content, but there's no new content. Now, if you look at that actually, and if you want to advise set of people who are here during times like that, how do you create content? How do you be relevant for your customers, even the times like what we've seen in the last 10 months?
Yeah, so thankfully we planned it a little better. So the moment we were looking at what is happening, especially in China, the first thing we did was we moved a lot of our editing equipments to their places, right, to the editor's place, so that tomorrow, God forbid, and that happened eventually. If we had to create content, no one has to come to office to edit any videos or any web series, right? Now that was the basic thing that we did. Moved a lot of these equipments home to their places so that the work can go on, right? Then we looking at people who know how to shoot and know how to act. So we approached them. A lot of now, influencers, since they are making a lot of money on social media, especially through their Instagram and through their when TikTok was there. Now they have understood how to use light, camera, basic things, and we have directors who connect with them on their phone, on their laptops, guide them, and then started shooting through these devices, right? Through whatever devices was available. And we started creating content from there. Post that, we started editing, and then we started releasing those content because, see, quality, of course, matters, but um, basic content was missing. So the audience was looking at basic content. How good it is looking was secondary, essentially. So we had to first address that problem. So we did that. Also, I don't know whether you know, we listen to our audiences really closely, right? Any video that would have reached one of you guys, we would have done like a detailed study about a particular community. So if I'm reaching out to Katie, I would have figured where Katie is, what community does Katie belong to. I would have reached Katie. When I say I, filter copy, since you watch filter copy, yeah, I would have reached you through Facebook, right? And then I would have directed you towards my YouTube channel where you go and subscribe it. So, also, if I have to reach to a teenager today and want to create any content for a teenager, I am on Snapchat. So on Snapchat, I'm sure most of us are not there, including myself. So yeah, so we would create for teenagers some stuff there on Instagram. So during pandemic we created 1 minute web series, an episode only 1 minute long, because a lot of people were watching stories. They wanted something very snackable, so we created something there. So that's how we came up. We managed pandemic. A lot of audiences who appreciated us. That was really motivating for us to create even more content, and we started creating content from home. And it took some time to adjust, but then we aced it. Yeah.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Vishwa. It's really helpful. And keep doing what you guys doing. Keep creating content. Keep entertaining people. Wonderful.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of questions from audience and attendees today, and I don't have interest or time. I can't take all, but let me bring in Mohit here to see if he can throw in some light. How does one gather insights on the challenges a customer faces, apart from feedback collection, which is usually shared by customers? Is there any other ways that you can actually help our audience?
Oh, sure, definitely. I think the very first thing is to try to eat your own dog food, right? And I think a lot of tech companies do this, is to go through the entire process or journey yourself. See what works for you, see what doesn't work for you. Then again, you have standard templates, which means try doing all the. It's a bit like almost like QC in an engineering world, where you're trying to see all the unhappy parts and trying to look for all the things which can go wrong, and then you just run through all those test cases. Try if you're talking about anything, an app on mobile, really you want to see whether it works across different types of devices, different types of operating systems. So you're really running through that process. What you really want to keep doing is, I think, and the best analogy for this is what in back in the Air Force they used to call this the ODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and act, right? So which means basically there's a feedback loop in place where you're constantly improving. Perfection is not something which is you've hit perfection, right? You have to continuously keep evolving. So I think when it comes to customer experience, and let's remember, the customer is not static, right? The customer keeps changing. Their likes and dislikes will change. And tomorrow, that same customer whom you would have reached in a very different way 10 years back, now you will need to reach, I think maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram, maybe some other, they're located somewhere else. They're in a different headspace. So I think there is no easy answer to this, but there are many different paths to getting this right.
Absolutely. Mohit, due to interest of time, I'll also add in just one thing called look at effort that customer is taking to reach out to you, which we call effort score. If you can measure effort score, they're taking difficulty, they're trying to reach out to you in multiple angles to solve the same problem. It's a repeat problem that is opening, comment again and again. Remember, those are not the experiences that you want to deliver. Maybe other ways of looking at other than CSAT. One more. I know, Shishi, we've got 1 more minute, or are we running out of time already?
So, yes, we have got 1 or 2 more minutes.
Thank
we can
you.
do that.
Thank you. And I'll probably open this question. I don't know, a lot of people can answer, but Vishwa, let's see if you can help here. Especially providing superior experience, one tends to unintentionally encroach into private space of customers. How do you deal with this mens? Do you think data is safe with digital or even overall? I think the question is about digital payments, but also I think it's privacy is what looks like is a question around. Vishwa, anybody can help answer, or maybe Srivaths?
No, definitely there is always a very thin line between how much you can intrude with your customer space, and you need to be very cognizant about it and very mindful about it. And here is where you need to be a quick learner with consumption of a lot of data and jigging your entire interactions plan with him. What you build for today will not work for tomorrow, because your customers are also evolving and they come from a different segments, right? You have customers who are 60 plus, 70 plus, you have customers who are in mid 20s and mid 30s. So one size will not fit for all. You need to understand what that kind of customers are, and keeping those sensitivity of privacy in mind. Accordingly, you need to stitch in your element of being engaged with them.
Brilliant, Shiv. Thank you.
I just want to one thing, Katie. I also believe that the customers today are far more educated, and they understand where the line is drawn and how to unblock or block a lot of those privacy these things, right? So I think they are much more educated. They understand. They are continuously learning. So I don't think so anyone can blindly fool the customers now. They are smart enough. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yep.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. I just want to summarize, and it's been a phenomenal to have such an enlightening panel conversation. And if we would have got 1 more hour, we could have easily help answer other questions. We would have gone. But looks like in a summary, the digital world, the CX, whether in the digital world or previous world, hasn't changed. Looks like fundamentally it's the same. It's built on great CX, means great trust, building loyalty, and repeatability. That means it's a one measure. Make sure that it's simple and easy for your customers. It's a fundamental. Make sure that you do empower your customers to do the right thing. That means maybe a self-service, maybe a technology to help solve the problems. But more importantly, don't retrofit technology into where it probably doesn't fall. If the human touch is required, make sure that you provide that. If you don't provide human touch and throw in a technology where it's not required, you are going to be creating more bad experience than great experience. But with that, I want to thank the panel, each one of you, insightful conversation. Thanks for your insights. I want to thank IAM opportunity for us to speaking to all the attendees and talking about our views and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our amazing speakers for this wonderful session. Thank you to our design partner, Visape, media partner, Financial Express, Omnichannel partner, Zendesk. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.